Even just rhythm and rhyme, even if you just put something in the form of a poem, you'll tend to remember it, and then if you put that poem to music, you'll certainly remember it. And of course, we have some wonderful devotees who did this with Krishna's pastimes for children. In fact, we have Jamini went through Krishna book, and she put everything, Vrindavan section of Krishna book, she put everything in a song. She put everything to music. And she also has specific pastimes. You know, like today in the forest of Talavan, Lord Krishna and Balaram killed the Danu Kastura by wheeling him around and around. And you remember. And I think it's sort of a shame that it's only children in this kind of learn these. Because they're also useful for us as adults. You know that in most parts of India, the different pastimes of Krishna are put into songs in the local language and sung in the local language. So of course, if we're going to be singing only songs in languages we don't know, then either we have to learn those languages, or we can also learn, at least for our private use. Dravida Prabhu takes so many verses and so many lila, and he transforms them into English rhyme, rhythm, and song. And this way, he practices them all the time. If you hang out in San Diego at all, which I do periodically, then you'll see sometimes even in the middle of japa time, he'll just be chanting japa and all of a sudden go boom, 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 start singing his little songs, and then he'll go back to his japa. So when he teaches these songs on Sunday at the feast, every Sunday feast, he has a slideshow of some of Krishna's Leela, and he'll teach everybody the Sanskrit and the English to all of these songs. So we once had a meeting in New Zealand at a ladies' retreat, and the women asked me, teach us how to remember, how to study Prabhupada's books. And I said, why don't we each talk about how we do it? And it was wonderful. Some of the people said, I go through the purports, I go through the verses, and I turn them into poetry. Or I turn them into songs, or I turn them into poetic songs. So what's another way that we memorize things?
That's the answer.
How do you do that specifically?
Try to remember a verse in your head. If you can check it.
Okay, checking. So you say something, then you look. That's how we would teach spelling. We cover, spell, check, cover, write, check. So, and educational research shows that if you check yourself after very small bits, you get it better. So if you're especially learning something, so learn a little bit, check, learn a little bit, check, learn a little bit, check, learn a little bit, check. Okay, what's another way to memorize? Teaching is really good. Teaching is one of the best ways to learn anything and to memorize anything. Especially if you really take the time to organize your material. And especially if you teach something more than once. You know, if you teach something several times, then after a while, you'll tend to remember it. That's one of the reasons why Prabhupada said, if you give knowledge, you'll get knowledge. And why he encouraged everybody to be a teacher. And be a teacher with whatever you know, teach that. Don't think, well, first I have to understand everything and I have to be swimming in prema bhakti before I can teach anything. You know, otherwise it'd be a pretty silent movement. But, you know, whatever you know, take that and teach it. Whatever you realize, take that and teach it. Teach somebody. Where is it? There's some program in this kind of everyone teach one. You know, teach somebody what you know. Prabhupada was so happy little 3-year-old Saraswati was just going around teaching whatever she knew. So you'll be much more likely to remember it. And that's the same with if you read something. You know, you're reading in the Bhagavad Gita, or you're reading Krishna book, or Chaitanya Charitamrita, whatever you're reading. Tell somebody about it. Or call up a friend, or email somebody, or something. You know, communicate it to somebody. Talk about it. Even put it in a diary if that's all you can do. And that will help you to remember it. Repeating it. Okay? What's another way to remember things?
By listening.
By listening. If you only listen, your memory will be utmost 10%. If all you do is listen, and that's it, utmost you remember 10%. Unless you're a very unusual person.
Visualization.
Through realization, that's a good way to learn.
Visualization.
Oh, visualization. Yes, visualization. And you can actually create a scene in your mind. If you're an artist, you can paint the scene or draw the scene. Even if you're not an artist, you can draw it for yourself and make a little sketch. But you create a mental picture. Now there's also visualization where you create a symbolic picture. You know about that? So I once went to a teaching seminar done by a Christian organization where they were, and I someday, I hope we're going to do this in this country. But they had an 8-hour program, 2 days, 2 hours one day and 6 hours the next day, where they went through the whole Old Testament of the Bible. Of course, it was an overview. And they did it a lot through visualizations, and they had very clever visualizations. So for the book of Genesis, which is about, what's the book of Genesis about? Anybody know? Creation. So they had a picture of the earth. And on top of the picture, they had the word begin. And they had the N in the middle of begin larger. Big N. Begin. So there was a picture. And for every book of the Bible, they had a picture. Like for the book Leviticus. Now I took that seminar probably close to 20 or 25 years ago, and I have never practiced it. I've never reviewed it since I took that seminar, and I can still remember a lot of it. That for the book of Leviticus, they had somebody wearing Levi's jeans and someone kissing his foot. Leviticus. And they had, for the book of Ruth, they had a house with a very dominant roof. And inside you could see Ruth with a heart. For the book of Samuel, they had a mule made out of sand. And then they had Samuel the king standing by this mule. So they had, and I remember many of the others. So visuals can also be like that. You can visualize literally. Okay, Krishna's breaking the beak of Bakasura. And what did Srila Prabhupada do in order to help us visualize these pastimes so we can remember them? Paintings and dioramas, which of course was started by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Prabhupada said the dioramas would be better than the book. And we also use symbolic imagery. Not just literal imagery, like this idea of the sand mule. We also have pictures of analogies. Can you give me some example of pictures we have of analogies? From the Shastra.
The soul and the super soul are the two birds in the tree.
Yes, soul and super soul, two birds in a tree. Another one.
The name of the blind.
The lame and blind man. Okay. That's not Shastra, but that's Prabhupada's analogy. Another one. You definitely use analogy pictures.
The water in the water pots is for the super soul.
Oh, okay. Water, reflected water in the water pots. Water.
The body and the demon chariot and the soul.
Okay.
That's
Can you all see that picture in your mind, like that?
Banyan tree.
The banyan tree. Banyan tree reflected upside down in the water. Right? Or the changing bodies exhibit. Can you all picture the changing bodies exhibit? So we also use this sort of memorization technique where we use symbolic pictures. Others.
watering roots.
Watering the root, okay. So there's many, many. Okay, other memorization techniques. Summary. Definitely summarizing. That was something I had my Gurukul students do over and over and over and over and over again for years. That they'd read a section of Prabhupada's books and write a summary. Read a section of Prabhupada's books and write a summary. Read a section of Prabhupada's books and write a summary.